and to see if they're ready to hear what'll happen if they don't change, because that means they're in stage 2. If they're ready to hear about negative outcomes of their behavior, I ask, what do you really want? What's your goal? And would your goal make you more successful? So for example, with the gardeners, maybe they just want to be their own boss and they don't want anyone telling them what to do anymore. So that's what they really want. They don't really maybe care so much about being green. And then I also ask, are you ready to have a different relationship with people that might hold you back? And why do you give in to the wrong thing? It could be random reasons, and this is really important to find out why, because it may not always be the reasons we think. And how will your family and friends feel when you achieve your goal? Just to get people to think about how it might feel when they achieve their goal. And if they're in stage 2, I show films and stories that show negative outcomes if they don't change. Because films help us feel things more than any other art form. And also, it's really important to avoid sharing videos and articles with people that don't want to engage, because if they're not ready to hear any of it, it's not a good time to show them videos or articles. It's just going to turn them off. And for people that are in the 3rd stage, they just need solutions. They don't need to be stuck in the whole hearing about how guilty they need to feel. And if you do come across any funny videos or articles that don't turn people off, please let me know. I don't want to turn people off by making them feel guilty or bossed around or overwhelming people where they feel like nothing they do will make a difference. And scaring people, actually, they've shown that studies that scaring people can actually cause them to say, well, that could never happen to me. So I haven't found a funny video yet, but I do have a story that I'll share with you in a minute. And I created the story based on this study that I read, where Save the Children, they kind of figured out what story would make people give them the most money. And so do you think people gave more money when they saw Rokia, a girl from Mali facing starvation, or Rokia, one of millions facing starvation, or Rokia and Musa facing starvation? How many for Rokia, just one girl? Okay. How many for Rokia, one of millions? Okay. For Rokia and Musa facing starvation? Okay. So people gave more money when they only saw one person, not when they saw one person plus statistics, and not when they saw 2 people with no statistics. And it's hard to imagine what a million people look like. And we have more of a connection with one person. Do you think we're more likely to take action to prevent harm that'll happen soon or years from now? Just a shout out, soon, okay? To someone we know or strangers? Someone we know. Okay, so I think we all know this. And what I'm trying to do is, instead of making people care about our 7th generation, people we don't even know at all, I like to start by telling a story, get my audience to take action about one person in their neighborhood. So I like to start with the story by asking, what is the greenest product? Can anyone guess what the greenest product is? But buying green and be buying nothing, because anytime we buy anything, it has to end up somewhere. And buying green can help reduce harmful chemicals, not just in the environment, but in our bodies. Anderson Cooper, he had his blood drawn, and over 100 chemicals were found in his blood. How many of you recognize this guy, newscast? How many of you have a crush on him? All right, usually get a few. So they found over 100 chemicals, and phthalates were found in his body. And its effects in animals are linked to testicular cancer, reduced sperm quality, and potential infertility. And I'm looking around, and some of your faces look like his right now. And so anyone, as you know, can say they sell natural products, but there is no regulation. And so the EPA says that some phthalates are probable carcinogens, but you'll probably never see the word phthalates listed as ingredients in any of these products. But if you see the word fragrance, that might be a red flag for you. And phthalates can also be found in a lot of plastics, especially soft plastics. And if you Google toxic shower curtain, and if you have a dark sense of humor, you can buy this one down here. So some might say it's slow death by rubber duck. Not to rain on your parade, I just heard you had a rubber duck race. but the rubber ducks probably have phthalates in them, and including lead as well. I share this not to stay people stuck on the negative, but to see if my audience is ready to act, if they're in stage 3. I ask, do you feel you need to have the toxic stuff around just in case? And if so, I'll go back to tips from stage 2. Or do you avoid people, places, and things that trigger you to do what doesn't meet your goal? And if so, then they're ready for solutions. And only then do I share solutions with them. So here's just one solution. I like to frame solutions as telling them what's in it for them. So I like to share that people will like you more, perhaps, if you use fragrance-free products that don't have phthalates, because some people are sensitive to chemicals. And so you can freshen air by just opening your window. And when I open my window, this is what's outside of my house in San Francisco. It's very random, but some guy throwing something. I live kind of in the other side of the tracks, and he's throwing something out his window, and there's very interesting lingerie decor hanging outside of someone else's window. But if you have your window open, then you can kind of hear what's going on outside. I don't need to be telling you all this because I see your windows open all the time. But you can also freshen air with baking soda. And then a great tip, I get all my great tips from healthcare, people in the healthcare industry. So my friend, she couldn't get one of her patients to floss, so she just says, how about flossing just 3 teeth a day? It's so ridiculous, how could you say no? And by the time you're doing it, you're probably just gonna do the rest. So I like to translate that into helping people be green by saying, how about just typing sfapproved.org and just see if you feel like trying any of the 1,000 green products tested by city staff. Just type it in and see how you feel when the page shows up. And when you get to that site, you might get tips like this. A lot of people think green cleaners cost more, but actually baking soda and vinegar is the cheapest way to clean. And I didn't think this would work until I ran out of the store-bought cleaner one day, and I just ended up using this, and it actually worked really well on a lot of different surfaces. And also microfiber mops or cloths, compared to cotton mops or any other mops, they actually can clean 10% more space in less time. And it can also reduce back problems because you don't need a bucket, you just can swivel this really lightweight mop around, and you can just take the mops off and wash them. And you can sometimes only use water and no chemicals to clean glass, and I actually just have a steam mop at home. How many of you have used these? Great. We had a graduate student do a study, and ready-to-use products cost 15 times more than the concentrated green products. So the bad stuff costs more than the concentrated green products. That's true. And this applies to more products you would use in a large organization that you might get in bulk. And anyone use these? Okay. And in San Francisco, it's one of the products we bought the most of, and I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because we're all so disgruntled that we're huffing them. I like to share when I meet with my coworkers that they can return them and exchange them for keyboard brushes that we'll give for free. Because it costs $10 to keep buying the can dusters, and you have to keep buying them, and they have greenhouse gases that cause climate change. And they also leave a residue that nobody really wants. And these keyboard brushes, you can just use them over and over. And when I meet with people, I like to say, who would like to switch to this, or get your organization to switch? So just for fun, we'll do it right here now. Who would want to get to vote your organization to switch to this, if you could? Okay, great. And the tip that I think most people love, because it's something you can do right away when you go back to your home or office, is just switch to Century Gothic font. That's what it looks like. And it uses 30% less ink in printing than Arial. And non-rechargeables, at least in San Francisco, we pay $90 an hour to get them picked up to be recycled. But if you get hybrid rechargeables, these are a new kind of rechargeable, and they last a year between charges, much longer than the ones you're used to, and you can get a free recycling box and pickup. Not just from us, but from calltorecycle.org. And also, who's bothered by the smell of permanent markers? I am too. And it says they're non-toxic, but we actually hunted down the toxicologist who kind of came up with that non-toxic standard, and it actually does have some hazardous solvents with odors that bother people, and kind of a less toxic alternative are China markers. How many of you have used China markers? They sometimes are called wax pencils too. And also there's many more products, but I don't have time to go into them, but you can also, a lot of them will help your building become a LEED green building, especially our cleaners and computers and things. So you can just go to our site and find out even where to buy some of these products. Anyone here have a smartphone? Anyone know of goodguide.com? So great. So for those of you, even if you don't have a smartphone, you can go to their site and you can get one score of how safe something is for your home. So they have everything from cleaning products to skincare to they're adding on a lot more categories. And it's the best thing we found so far, although we do think it could be improved in some other ways. But it's the most user-friendly thing that we've seen. How many of you eat any of these things? Admit it, come on. How many of you knew that you could fundraise by recycling these wrappers? How many of you knew that? So there's this company that I found, and you can just, to make it easy for people, because their website doesn't really give you a sign you could post like this, you can actually go to my site and print this sign and put it above your cardboard box. It's great for fundraising for schools.